Not too many trading setups last week, but we did happen to catch one good trade in the daily market breakdown videos. Let's get right into this week's Forex Forecast. Forex Forecast off with the DXY, the US dollar index. So starting off with the higher time frame here, the weekly chart, just want to remind you guys we failed to break a high here, so really just a lot of sideways action. There's no trend here. However, on the lower time frames it is showing strength, but I'll show you guys why. It's kind of a tricky situation here on the US dollar, and we can't really go off of it too much as far as trading the other pairs. If you look at a daily chart here, you can see the daily trend line is holding. However, I don't really like how close we came to testing it. And as you can see, this red candle here, you know, we are getting a pre-red day in the DXY. Although, yes, it's looking like it's holding. That the price action here is kind of saying we could, you know, be in tune for another drop on the DXY. If you look at a 1 hour chart, we had a really nice 1 hour uptrend. I was telling the members, you know, if we broke the high here, we'll have a nice trend up, and we did. And the trend was sustained for quite a bit. We got all the way up to the 105 area, a little bit higher than that. And then this past day here, on Friday, we actually did break below. Not a huge break. It's not like we closed all the way down here or anything, but we did, in fact, break the low, which left us with supply at the 104.928 area. We definitely could see a small move off of that supply zone if we do push up to it. However, if you go to the 4 hour chart, you can clearly see what's taking place here. We had a beautiful downward trend line on the 4 hour chart that was removed here by this 4 hour demand at 104.69. And we tested it once, twice, 3 times now. So, you know, according to the supply and demand methodology, this zone should in theory be becoming weaker. I thought we would actually contact this supply zone here. We did not. So this zone is still fresh above. So I still think it's possible we even react off of that supply zone. So as far as where I think the DXY is headed, I'll be very clear. Since the daily trend is up, we pretty much have to go with that. However, since we have break in trend on the lower time frames, that is signs that we could, you know, be starting to go down again and break the trend. So if this 4 hour zone gets removed, like we definitely could see, any 4 hour supply zone there, we can maybe look for a potential short and be bearish the dollar again. So really all going to revolve around this 4 hour demand and 4 hour supply. We could also ping pong between here. So I know it might be confusing, guys, but it's a really difficult time right now. On the DXY, we just have to kind of go with the daily chart and like remind ourselves that, hey, the daily trend is still up. So we should in theory still be seeing strength. But like I said, on the lower time frames, we are starting to see a little bit of weakness. That's why we need to see if this 4 hour demand zone holds or if it fails. All right, on to the daily chart of the Euro US dollar. You can see here we had a beautiful move off of this daily zone. We haven't seen a crazy move off of it yet, but just want to point out that we did point out the low here in the euro in the daily market breakdown video. And if you guys want access to these daily market breakdown videos like forecasts throughout the week and catch trades like this, like on the euro, check out the Diamond membership. Links in the description down below. We have Sunday Zoom sessions, Sunday forecasts, daily market breakdown videos, private Discord group, video lessons, and more. So check it out. We'll be happy to see all traders join the team, potentially catch trades and moves away like this one here on the euro. So with this daily demand zone in control, we definitely could be looking for longs. This is a significant daily zone. If we kind of zoom out a little bit here, you can clearly see we had a pretty nice daily downtrend that was removed by this demand at the 1.08 area. So it's significant in my opinion. I think we could easily move from demand to supply, but I know a lot of you guys aren't probably trading the daily chart, and you know, that's fine. So there's really 2 options here on the euro. Actually, I would say 3. The first option I would say is we could wait for a pullback down to this 4 hour demand, and this demand zone on the 4 hour chart is inside of the overall daily demand zone. So that's important to remember. So we definitely could see a move off of that daily zone like that, or off this 4 hour zone like that. That could be a decent pullback entry in my opinion. And there actually is a little potential support resistance trap forming right here as well. So we definitely could see that move off of that zone down below if you want to be a little bit patient and wait for a pullback. The next option would be to wait for this high and the supply to be removed, because then we'll have the continuation of the H4 uptrend, which would be significant as well. And then any 4 hour demand zone that removes that, we could look for longs off of like that. And the next option is here on the 1 hour chart. If you want to look for 1 hour confirmation, since we are coming off of the daily demand zone, we could be looking for 1 hour confirmation. And what that's going to look like is this downward trend line removed. So if we can remove it like that, we'll have demand somewhere down there. I will have the zone out on the chart for the members. Like I said, guys, I do the forecasts throughout the week as well. Make sure to check those out. I can't always just give the zones out during this weekly Forex forecast because it hasn't happened yet, because the downward trend line is being respected at this point. So if we can remove that, that would be our confirmation to the upside on the euro. Now, if you were still bullish the dollar and you think we are going to continue to go down, you could short. I mean, the trend line is still holding. That's significant in my opinion. I just don't like how many times we're testing it. I don't really like trading around a trend line. So yeah, you could be day trading short on a 5-minute time frame, and that's going to be about it for all of you guys who want to look for shorts. I know I like to give both sides of the equation for longs and for shorts, but like I said, I would be only sticking to the 5-minute chart for shorts to be day trading with this downward trend line here on the euro US dollar. So it's really mostly going to be focusing on this 4-hour chart here around the demand zones. And of course, you could always be day trading inside of the 4-hour demand. You don't have to just take the whole 4-hour zone. That's fine, but you could be day trading there looking for extra confirmation. But at the end of the day, guys, we broke a downward trend on the euro, which could be an indication that the upward trend on the DXY is going to break, and the daily demand zones in control. We could definitely see a lot more pressure to the upside here on the euro US dollar. All right, on to the forecast for gold, XAUUSD. So you guys can clearly see we have a pretty nice daily upward trend line. The only thing I don't like about this trend line is it's pretty steep. It's not like super clear with super clear peaks and valleys, but it is a qualified trend line in my opinion. And as you can see, we did actually break below the trend line. Now, if you look over here, there's still 1 hour and 42 minutes left at the time of this recording. This is just the only time I had to actually record this video. So the trend line hasn't really been removed yet, technically. But if we kind of stay around here, in my opinion, that will be removed, and we'll have some sort of supply above up here. So that's significant in my opinion. Now, if we break the low here, that'll be even more significant. And what I think is taking place here is potentially that pullback down to weekly demand at 22.19. I think that if the daily trend line breaks, that is definitely evidence to suggest we could be pulling back down to that daily demand, or sorry, this weekly demand. And I welcome that. I would be more than happy if we can get that pullback on gold. It's a beautiful dip buying opportunity that I personally think we will see a move off of that zone. I have a lot of faith in it in my opinion. If not, we even have one down below. So I definitely welcome a pullback here on gold. So how do we, go ahead and trade that one? Unfortunately, I'm not seeing too many setups. Even this 1 hour trend line, kind of far away from it now, but we do have a 1 hour downward trend. So what that means is on the 5-minute time frame, we could be looking for shorts. As long as we're hovering around here, we're not too far up here, we could be looking for 5-minute day trade shorts. I think that would be fine. As far as our higher time frames go, I know the 4-hour chart isn't a super higher time frame. There is a 4-hour supply I was looking at up here at 24.04. Now, I really wanted a quicker pullback to the zone, something like that. We did not get that. We pushed even lower, which in theory makes the zone a lot stronger, but it could also be, it's a double-edged sword in my opinion. I usually prefer zones that pull back quicker than later. I don't really like a quick pullback like this, but I also don't like a massive pullback. Because why? Well, because a lot of the times when we get these deep pullbacks all the way down here, a lot of times the higher time frame zones become in control. So if we rally up soon and contact this supply, I think we could use it for a potential short off of that supply at the 24.04 area, with profit targets being all the way down to that weekly demand zone. And look, this all could be a fake out below the trend line to fake traders out. I'm open to that concept as well. But honestly, guys, for longs, we either need to wait for that weekly zone to be hit that I was pointing out, or if we do push back up to here and we break that supply, any 4-hour demand zone there, we could look for longs off of. That would be my 2 criteria for long entries here on gold. All right, on to the forecast for the USDJPY. I really want to emphasize the higher time frames here. The weekly trend is up. Weekly demand is in control. Yes, we are kind of floating around the highs at this point, but we're really not there yet. And just again, want to emphasize, the trend up. Yes, whatever happens in the DXY happens, but we kind of have to go with what we have here on the USD yen. The daily chart, remember, daily trends are up here as well, so things are looking pretty strong. It's a trend on all 4 time frames. This past week, we did in fact break the high, which gave us that beautiful looking 4-hour trend line, pretty much picture perfect in my opinion. Yeah, we could kind of fall off here a little bit, but overall the trend line would still be respected at that point. We do have a 4-hour supply above that is significant in my opinion at the 157.38 area. I think we could maybe see a move off of this zone for sure. So definitely have your eye out on this 4-hour supply zone. And again, we might want to risk less, because that's why I showed you guys the weekly and the daily trends are both up. So this might be a supply zone where instead of risking a full 1%, maybe you risk 0.5 or 1/4%, or maybe 3/4%, whatever you got to do to feel more comfortable trading a counter trend setup. But it's a beautiful supply zone. Nice move down off of that supply. And then for longs, at any point, since we do have a 4-hour trend line, you could be day trading a 15-minute chart and even a 5-minute chart, since we also have a 1-hour trend up. So both of these time frames are good for longs if you want to trade with this trend line. And even if we pull back here, as long as the trend line's holding, we could be looking for the 15-minute time frame longs. If we break the trend line, then at that point I would definitely be holding off on the 15-minute demand zone longs. And then for trading a 4-hour or a 1-hour chart, the safest thing to do would be to wait for this supply to be removed like that. Hopefully we get a small move off of that. Some of you guys make a little bit of money. We break this supply, and then any 4-hour demand zone there, we can maybe buy a pullback to, and that would pretty much be the best thing to get here on the USD yen, because remember, the trends are up. So it's looking a lot stronger than the DXY overall. That's why I think this overall could happen. So pretty much all revolving around this 4-hour supply here on the USDJPY. And real quick, if you are enjoying the video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. All ad revenue from these weekly Forex forecasts are donated to my local hospice charity, which means a lot to me. So let's get those likes and shares, guys. We'd much appreciated, so we can generate more ad revenue for the local hospice. All right, on to the GBPUSD, and really quick, let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are on the pound. Do you think we will break the supply here and go up, or do you think the supply is going to hold and push back down to demand? Let me know, or whatever you think that is going to happen here on the pound in the comments. So what I think, it's a little bit tricky right now. Yes, we do have a daily supply that is in control. We are seeing some sort of hesitation around the supply. I think it is possible we do pull back down to the demand and react off of that, because we all know the nature of supply and demand. Price moves from supply to demand and vice versa. However, on the lower time frames, it's really showing a lot of buying opportunities. There was a 4-hour demand zone here. I was actually looking for longs in at 1.267. My order wasn't really, it was barely close to being filled. I mean, it was semi-close, not really close. It's not like it wicked in and the spread didn't catch me in or anything. Do I like this setup now? I mean, it's not horrible. I still think we could maybe see a small move off of it. Depends on what happens on the dollar, but it's still a nice little drop base rally demand zone here. I think we could get a move off of. If you don't feel comfortable due to this, I get it. You could have just looked for a 15-minute extra confirmation inside of this zone. If you don't feel like putting a entry and a stop below the zone, I think that would be fine as well. And at any point, since we have a 4-hour trend indicated by this arrow, we could just be looking for the day trading longs at any point on the 15-minute time frame. I would stay away from the 5-minute time frame, because in the 1-hour chart, we don't have a 1-hour trend yet. If we break the high here, then at that point, I think looking for a 5-minute time frame longs would be fine. Now, another setup I'm seeing is this 1-hour demand. This 1-hour demand broke this downward trend line we had. It wasn't the best downward trend line I've ever seen. Don't get it twisted, but we could. This is the nearest entry for longs at the 1.272 area if you are bullish on the pound. Now, if you think that daily supply is going to hold and we will be pulling back all the way down to daily demand, what I would do for shorts is wait for this demand zone to be removed. If it does, and then any 1-hour supply zone there, we could get a short entry on, and this would basically be our typical confirmation on a 1-hour chart, as the daily supply is in control up here. So all going to revolve around this 1-hour demand zone and that 4-hour demand zone and the 4-hour trend line here on the GBPUSD. Alrighty, on to the USDCAD. I will come out right away and say this one is not super clear at all. A lot of confusing times. I would say that we did have an upward trend line here, or sorry, upward trend. I don't really feel that way anymore. It's way too much sideways action. It's just tricky, and there's really no daily demand zone down below that we can be like, hey, look at that great pullback we're gonna get to down there. So it's not super clear. Even on the 4-hour chart here, we had a downward trend line in the 4-hour chart. We cleanly broke it, and we had a very nice drop base rally demand zone, pretty much picture perfect as far as a drop base rally demand zone goes, and we blew through the zone as if it didn't even exist. So, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say supply and demand is perfect, guys. A lot of times this does happen, and that did create supply above. So if you are bearish, I really see two options here. We could be playing both zones, in my opinion, since there's not really a lot to go off of on the higher time frames. We do have a 4-hour supply above at the 1.37. We could use that zone for shorts if you think the DXY is going to fall. If you think the USDCAD is going to fall, this would be our 4-hour supply zone to look for shorts off of. And as far as longs, I still do not mind this 4-hour demand zone all the way down here below this potential trap setup, all the way down to 1.357. So definitely a decent zone as well to look for longs off of. So again, there's really not much to go off of on the weekly or the daily chart. It's pretty much just this 4-hour chart, and we're seeing some manipulation, which I'm not a fan of. Nobody really is, right? However, there's at least a couple good 4-hour demand zones and supply zones we could be looking for moves off of here on the USDCAD. So hopefully that makes sense. If you guys have any questions about this, do not hesitate to leave a comment down below. I respond to every single comment. All right, on to the forecast for the AUDUSD. So we did have this daily supply and control. We pushed 3/4 of the way in. I was actually expecting it to break. It doesn't mean you can't look for shorts, obviously. We actually did catch a confirmation trade off of this daily supply zone. So if you want to see what that looks like, make sure to stay tuned. And the supply zone's holding. Are we going to push back down to this daily demand? It's possible. I kind of hope we do, because I think it's a decent little buying opportunity down at that daily demand zone. And as far as the 1-hour chart goes, this was the confirmation up here. You guys know I pointed this one out in the daily market breakdown video, and I believe in last week's forecast as well. Beautiful supply zone at the top there. So I hope some of you guys are still, you know, holding that trade. Now, as far as the 1-hour chart goes here, we had an updated trend line. We did actually break the trend line, which has left us with a demand zone at the 0.662 area. So if you do not think we're going to pull back any lower and the move off the daily supply is in fact over, this really would be our buying opportunity on the 4-hour chart at this 1-hour area of demand. It's definitely decent in my opinion. Now on the 4-hour chart, the safer thing to do for longs, since this supply zone here was not only, so this supply zone removed demand and it was proven supply as we got a nice reaction off of it. So if we remove that supply like that, that would be a significant 4-hour demand zone, and I would be interested in maybe looking for longs off that demand zone. It all depends on what your view is on the dollar, and we're also probably going to struggle around this supply above at the 0.66 area. I think it's decent. We maybe could see a small move off of it. But at the end of the day, we are seeing some weakness here on the Aussie. And since the daily demand supply was tested so deeply, I'm kind of expecting it to break, you know. So if we do, in fact, break that supply zone on the 4-hour chart, that would be a pretty bullish sign there on the Aussie. And like I said, guys, this 1-hour demand zone would be kind of our very aggressive entry, because remember, like I said, the daily supply is in control. So it would be aggressive. And, you know, if we end up, you know, failing and breaking below that 1-hour demand zone, that's fine. We're gonna have a nice daily zone down below we could look for longs at there as well. Alrighty, on to the USDCHF. Just wanted to point out the weekly time frame here. We had a nice weekly zone, and it was looking like we maybe could pull back down to it. Doesn't really look like it is so far. So does this not look like a pretty nice breakout to you guys? It's not like a 90-degree angle up. It's pretty healthy breakout above this downward trend line in my opinion. So just wanted to point out the higher time frame strength here. However, on the daily chart, we did kind of see some weakness here. We did break below the trend line, but this demand zone held strong. It was a horrible demand zone. It's nothing I would ever have traded at, if I'm being honest with you guys. I don't care how nice a move away we got from it was. I don't care. I would never lie to you guys and say I would take that zone. It is horrible. However, the zone down here is definitely decent in my opinion. So if we do happen to get that pullback all the way down there, that's probably for another video, so make sure to subscribe so you can watch these forecasts. Anyways, the daily supply is in control, so we could see the move off this supply. If we do break above this supply and the high like that, that'll be significant. That'll really prove to us that, hey, maybe we're not pulling back down to that weekly demand zone, and we should continue to look for longs here in the USD Swiss. Now, on the 4-hour chart, this is the 4-hour supply that's inside of that daily supply, and you can clearly see the hesitation we are getting. So I like that. I mean, no, it's not a huge move off of it, so it's not completely proven supply. However, we are getting that move off of it and the hesitation. So if we do remove that supply and we don't remove the high just yet, that's fine. Any 4-hour demand zone there, we could look for longs off of like that. And yeah, in the meantime, since this supply is in control, if you are bearish the USD Swiss, this is really your time to look for shorts. And since the trade's kind of already taken place, you could just be on a 50-minute time frame looking for day trading shorts to potentially get in short. And there's tons of profit margin to the downside if you do believe, in fact, we are going to drop down. But really, it's all going to revolve around this 4-hour supply if we can get it to be removed, or if we can drop. Like I said, if you want to get in short, it's got to be on day trading time frames now, looking for that extra confirmation there on the 50-minute time frame. And the best thing about that 4-hour supply, like I said, is the fact that the daily supply is in control as well, and it's inside of it, right? But do not ignore this weekly momentum to the upside, guys, and that's why I said if we do remove that high and the supply on the daily chart, that's going to be nice evidence to suggest we're going to continue to go up there on the USDCHF. Alrighty, last but not least, we are on to crude oil. Now, I have had my eye on this demand zone since pretty much all the way back here in February, guys. It's a nice little drop-based rally, or sorry, actually, it's kind of both. It's a rally-based rally and a drop-based rally in one, and it's at 74.04. I think this could be a magnet for price, as we have seen a lot of weakness here in crude oil. Now, on the 4-hour chart, we did not pull back up to this 4-hour supply zone, and that's, I don't know, I kind of like the supply zone, but as long as this 4-hour downward trend line's holding, guys, you could be day trading a 15-minute time frame to the downside to that 74.08 area I was pointing out on the daily chart. There's tons of profit margin to the downside. It is definitely looking decent. And on the 1-hour chart here, we actually have a 1-hour supply, the supply zone, and also a 1-hour downward trend, which means we could also be looking for shorts on a 5-minute time frame as well. I think both 15-minute and a 5-minute time frame shorts are completely appropriate in this situation. Now, the supply zone's good. Nice move away. I definitely like the zone. What I don't like about it is if it's contacted, it'll be right around this trend line and above it, which is kind of a double-edged sword. It's kind of a fake out above the trend line where everyone starts to buy and you can short, right? Something like that. If that makes sense, kind of doing the opposite of what everyone else does. So it is decent in my opinion. So this really would be the only 1-hour supply zone setup I'm seeing at 78.64. And again, the profit margin is a lot, right? Let's say we get in short at this supply zone, something like this with a healthy stop, and then our target is all the way down at the 74 area, maybe just, a little bit before. It's over a 6-to-1. So to be fair, 4-to-1, 5-to-1 trading setup there on crude oil on that 1-hour supply zone. So looking pretty good. And if we do in fact continue to go down and we do get in short from that supply and it works out, definitely look to wrap up the trade around 74.04 at that daily demand zone, because I don't really see oil breaking below $70 a barrel anytime soon, guys. That's just my opinion. So look, again, there's no trend on the weekly and there's no trend on the daily. We pretty much have to go with the 4-hour and the 1-hour chart, and all signs are really pointing to the downside, guys. So we pretty much have to go with that, which is why I'm saying the shorts, especially in the day trading time frames, are looking pretty good here on crude oil. If you guys want to watch the full-length forecast with all the other markets, make sure to subscribe to the channel membership to get access.